Welcome to a video about the elemental fire year of Mercury in 2024. This is going to activate a part of your sky that's represented by Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. It's going to change things in the world that are connected to fire, as well as in your own natal sky. We're going to go through each of your signs, but before we do that, we're having a great guest today, an expert astrologer on all things Mercury, Gary Cayton. He is the one who wrote the definitive book on the astronomy and astrology of Mercury. Gary is a hermetic practitioner. He has all kinds of magic and astrological magic. And his website you might want to check out is dreamastrologer.com. And we're going to be talking today from his perspective and wisdom about the trigons. There are 4 trigons in the sky. We're going to talk about what the real nature of the Mercury retrograde is, especially regarding its shadow. It may not be what you think. And we're also going to discuss how these particular fire retrogrades, which happen on a cycle, I think about every 4 years, are going to impact you and the world in the year ahead. So stay tuned for that. We're going to have the interview first, and then I'll just probably go ahead and do the all signs version after our introduction. I really suggest you stick around for that because Gary is extremely wise, and you'll learn stuff from him today that will really serve you in understanding the Mercury cycle of 2024. So we're just waiting for him to come into our room. If you're new to my channel, my name is Lori Lothian. I'm using the Western Tropical Zodiac whole sign houses. I also love the minor stars and fixed asteroids. And I put out about 30 videos per month sometimes. So check me out, subscribe, like, see what you think, and maybe you'll have some fun on my channel over the year of 2024. Okay, let's get going and let our guest of honor, Gary Cayton, into the room. Well, I'm so delighted to have Gary Cayton here. He's an astro wizard, and I'm not kidding. He's got the asteroid astro wizard right on his descendant. He's here to talk today about the planets, the planetary motion of Mercury in 24. Welcome, Gary.
Welcome. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it, Lori. It's great to be here.
I know I had so much fun doing this with you last year. I thought we could not do it again.
It's always fun to be with you. Yeah.
Before we start talking all things Mercury, which is your complete expertise, as you've written an entire book on it, Hermetica Triptycha. Did I say it right?
I'm going to show folks a picture here in a minute.
Wonderful. Tell me a little bit more about what else you're up to that maybe we could share with others. I know you do a conference every year. I think it's in February this year. Tell us more.
Yeah, I'm doing a Sky Astrology conference. This is the 3rd one. We had one in 2015 and then another one in 2018, and then 2021 got postponed, and so now we're back to it. And it's going to be in Tybee Island, Georgia, because we're going to be looking out over the ocean where it's nice and dark at the Venus-Mars conjunction. And so I did a whole ton of research on the Mars-Venus cycle back in 2015. And so I'm going to be representing that material. And my partner, Adam Gainsbourg, is going to be going over the Mars cycle for people. And his protege, Andrea Michelle Kennedy, is going to be doing the Venus cycle. And then Julene Lewis, our other partner, is going to be talking about all the stars and nakshatras that are involved. And so it's a limited space because it's just a small little meeting room. I think it's like room for 30 people. And we're already halfway full. So if people are interested.
And who's best served by this? Is this for astrologers? Is this for the general public? What kind of people are coming to these things?
Probably, intermediate level astrology. It's not exactly beginner level. You'll need to be somewhat familiar with your chart and with the idea of cycles. So it probably intermediate astrologers. We had a pretty good crowd in 2015. And people, just really, it was the first standing ovation I ever got in my career.
Oh, well, that's really cool. I wish I could be there this year, but unfortunately I have plans. I'll make the next one for sure. It just feels like fun to hang out with you guys.
I found a place near the Okefenokee Swamp where there's an eco lodge, and then there's a bunch of cabins down in the swamp proper, and it's super dark down there. I really want to do something down there at some point. And so it'll probably be even bigger because they have like a huge meet. We could have like hundreds of people. It's going to
Oh,
be
as
awesome.
soon as you say swamp, I'm there. Okay. So we don't even need to drain the swamp. It can just be the swamp. Okay. So wonderful. And everybody listening, underneath the description box, we'll have the website that I already announced to you and any other things that you can connect to. One thing I love about Gary, just honestly, for quite a while, I subscribed to the magical monthly report showing you what kind of magical talismanic openings there are in the sky for using, an auspicious sky for various magical purposes. So that's another element of what this wizard does. So let's get talking then about Mercury. He's in an
Yes.
element, what you call an elemental fire year. And are these elemental years about every 3 or 4 years apart, every 4 years apart?
The the individual elements are about 6 to 7 years apart.
Okay.
So it's a cycle about 6 to 7 years. And so the last time that we had a Mercury elemental year of fire was about 6 or 7 years ago. So that would have been like in the mid-teens. And then the one that people will really remember was the one before that. So about 14 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
um, there was a guy named by the name of Mohammed Bouazizi, and he set himself on fire. He practiced self-immolation in Tunisia, and pretty soon the entire region was on fire, metaphorically, with revolution and uprising and all of this stuff. And so it's just a really, really literal metaphor for, and that happened right on the solstice point, at
Mm-hmm.
29 degrees of Sagittarius, right on the solstice there. I think there was an eclipse there as well. So there's this quality of fire that is just like, they called them days of rage, where people were just like, they were mad about the government and all this stuff. And so there's this quality of fire that is very passionate.
Mm-hmm.
Fire, the alchemical symbol for fire, you can see it right here, is an upward pointing triangle. And so fire is up and out. It's inspirational. If you're not pissed, you might just be really inspired. But the other thing that it does is it seeks the limit. It's not about, like Earth is more practical. It's about, okay, seeking limits, as in what are the limits to what I can or can't do.
Mm-hmm.
Fire tends to say, let me seek the limit, as in the ultimate limit of, like, why am I here? For instance, these really big questions come up in the fire years.
That's interesting. Well, yeah, because in the tarot, the wands are of the nature of fire, and they tend to lead us to those bigger spiritual and existential directions, queries, and questions, right? And
Yes.
when you're talking about the sort of conflagration and the monk and the immolation and all of that, it reminds me of the fact that the fire signs are Sun, Jupiter, and Mars. And when you think about Sun, king and leader, Mars, warrior, and of course Jupiter can be law, legal. But you just think about those energies coming together for any purpose, let alone Mercury sort of stirring the pot during his elemental fire year, in which he retrogrades this year in April in Aries, in August Virgo, Leo, a combination, and then in November in Sagittarius, it's going to bring those planetary domicile lords into the mix, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
So you'll have this mixing of Mercury, not just with the fire signs, but with those planets that are also associated with Mars being the god of war, for instance, and being about separating one thing from another. Mars in sports, Mars shows up as separating the winners from the losers. Um, the police are another example. They separate the law-abiding people from the non-law-abiding people. And and so there's this really dry quality of separating. And then with the sun is not malefic like Mars, but it can be what's known as a functional malefic, in that if you stay outside too long and you don't cover yourself up or drink enough water, it can it can do you in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so there's this wonderful heat, but it also has that sort of gets us going and allows us to be out. We might head to the beach or whatever, but you have to also be careful with it, and then with Sagittarius, Sag is interesting because it's mutable fire. So Aries is like cardinal fire. It's like the spark. It's like that guy. He was the spark that got the revolution going, right? And then Leo is like the fixed fire. Like, how can we take this flame and like build something strong, like an oven, like making bricks or pizza or whatever, like, useful fire, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
Sag says, how can I take this fire and spread it, like really seeking the limit, like mutable fire, spread it across boundaries, spread it across national, ideological, all kinds of boundaries. So
Yeah.
there's the Jupiter that comes into play. When Jupiter gets a hold of fire, it really takes that seeking of the upper limit to the max,
Mm,
you know?
yeah, I like the way you're saying that. Yeah, that feels very interesting to look at how we already have such an intense year when it comes to conflict, war, as we're going in to 2024, and to see all this fire being activated by Mercury, who is like the messenger of the gods. But can you describe as a Mercury master what Mercury means to you in a general way as we go then later into his movement through the fire?
Right. Well, Mercury is not a planet that's going to be about taking sides, right? So many people probably already have an idea of whose side they're on about almost anything these days, it seems like. That's not Mercury's nature. He doesn't, I mean, he takes the side of Zeus in as much and the Olympians in as much as they say, hey, dude, deliver this message. And he delivers the message, but he's not delivering the message as a like pro-Israel or pro-Hamas or pro-Ukraine or pro-Russia. Like that's not, it's actually um, either, hey, don't kill me, I'm just the messenger, or oftentimes it's like it can be even from a trickster place, like he would go and deliver a message to Odysseus, for instance. Hey, there's this witch that's going to try to turn you into a pig, dude. You better eat some of this herb, and then she won't have any power over you. And so he can be a trickster to like undo the fixed nature of whatever plans people might have. And so, or he can show up like in the myth of the golden apple, where the goddess of discord, she was pissed for not being invited to the party, and she threw this apple in that said to the fairest. And so then they had to figure, okay, who's the fairest, right? And Mercury shows up as sort of he's just purely the messenger in this case. Okay, I'm going to grab this young buck, come here, Paris, like you're going to decide. And these three goddesses line up and pitch their case. If you choose me, I'll give you the most beautiful woman in the world for the wife. And that's what Paris ended up choosing. He chose Helen of Troy, and then there was this big war that erupted.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also a quality where he can be an intermediary that is about balancing opposing things.
Mm-hmm.
So all of those things could play out. Like we might find out information that will challenge assumptions that we've made about any of the wars that are ongoing. We might
Right.
we might find that something that we thought was decided, a conflict that we thought was decided, is now has a change of course. Um, so
Well,
there's a lot of
yeah, something you just said triggered a thought. And by the way, he also, I think, tricked Pandora into opening that damn box. So he's very much a trickster. But my other thought is that there's this kind of a friend of mine wrote a screenplay book called The Virgin's Promise, and it's the heroine's journey. And the hero's journey is to bring order to the kingdom, but the feminine version is to bring chaos to the kingdom in order to disrupt it, in order to restore it in a new creative way. So it's
right.
almost
And
like Mercury
yeah,
comes in and he's like a shit disturber, but he's actually going to disrupt something to restore something, to create something fresh.
absolutely. And that's very much true in alchemy. We talk about those two things as the fixed and the volatile. So the masculine, well, the masculine can be volatile and it can be fixed. It's fixed in the sense that if it's the so-called patriarchal order, like it's the way things are, that's fixed, right?
Hmm.
It generally favors men because men have been in power, yada, yada, yada. but the masculine is volatile in the sense that it is yang, that it is, warlike and so forth. The feminine is fixed in that it generally, women are generally more peaceful than men, and so there's this kind of fixed quality of like, let's keep the peace, and but women are more volatile in that they tend to favor emotional and or sensory awareness above intellectual knowing. So
Hmm.
their emotional truth or their somatic truth will mean as much or more to them. And when I say women, not just women, but feminine people in general, right? This goes both ways, but that what you're saying is very true. In alchemy, we talk about the fixed and the volatile, the above and the below. So the above would be like the rational sort of tried and true, traditional, etc. way of looking at things, and the volatile would be the sort of unconscious or emotional or somatic way of looking at things, the non-traditional. And yes, Mercury's role is to interject a little bit, just like the yin and yang has those dots in the middle, the white dot in the middle of the black and the black in the middle of the white.
Yeah.
In alchemy, we seek to make the fixed volatile and make the volatile fixed. So absolutely, that is his role, to interject a little bit of volatile into a situation that's too fixed,
Yeah.
or to
Yeah.
interject a little bit of fixed into a situation that's too volatile in order to bring balance and to bring harmony and completion to that energy, you
Well, and
see?
that also goes with, the tradition of Mercury having his joy in the first house, because every first house in a whole sign house system has a dividing line called the ascendant, and it separates the solar from the lunar spheres. So then again, we're having the masculine, feminine way of being. So he finds his androgynous way there too. He's not really male or female. So it
That's
really is
right.
kind of cool to look at how complex this planetary energy is that hugs the sun so closely. Now, in fire, as we mentioned already, you mentioned some themes of what happened 14 years ago. But this year we're heading into this retrograde in April from the 27th. And yeah, I know you some diagrams and all of that. Oh, before we talk about each retrograde, you also have a way of seeing the world through the trigons of identity, etc. Can we talk about the fire trigon? And then we'll talk about the actual retrogrades.
Yes. So, okay, so so back up for a second. I just learned just yesterday, I think maybe the day before, that the lady whose inspiration this work came from, um, Erin Sullivan, she recently passed away. Her book, Retrograde Planets, she has a 5-10 page section in there where she talks about Mercury through the elements. And so I definitely don't want to forget to mention her, because, she was the original inspiration for me to do this. And
Mm.
and one of the things that, and I think that's really, really important and not enough, um, I don't know what it is like in the age of the influencer. I think it seems to me like maybe people are supposed to be like this self-made person, like they're just like conjuring up all this wonderfulness. And if they have, if it's not all about them, they're somehow less. But to me, like owning a lineage of and honoring where the ideas that you're holding came from, and passing the torch, passing that on to another person, that's like really, it's kind of like a feminine way of being rather than a masculine way of being. And so
No, I
uh,
agree with that. I love that. Yes, I totally.
so
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 acknowledging your upline, yeah, Aaron Sullivan. Well,
Aaron, yeah. And so the one thing that I did, but taking further what Aaron talked about, hey, look, they're going to be happening in one element any given year. And then I said, well, that means that it's going to be activating 3 particular houses in anyone's chart, right?
mhm.
And so there's 12 total houses, and it's going to be activating 3 out of those 12, which means there's 4 combinations possible. It could activate houses 1, 5, and 9, which I call the identity trigon. It can activate houses 2, 6, and 10, which I call the Trigon of Mastery. It can activate houses 3, 7, and 11, which I have visuals for this somewhere, which I call the Trigon of the relationship Trigon, and it can activate houses 4, 8, and 12, which I call the Trigon of Dynasty. And so, and this comes from a Jyotish way of looking at the chart.
Yes.
I don't know of anyone in Western who has talked about this before. And I didn't even know of the Jyotish when I first started doing this. I just did it. And somebody
Yeah.
said, oh yeah, that is consistent with the Jyotish way of looking at it. And they call them, they have different words. And
Yes, it's the artha, the kama, the moksha, kama, moksha,
Dharma.
artha,
Dharma
dharma,
would be
dharma,
the firehouses. The
firehouses.
firehouses 1, 5, and 9 is about your purpose,
Mm-hmm.
right? So these are like 4 ways of being. These are 4 sort of life paths, if you will.
Yes, yes, yes.
So there's Dharma, which is about purpose. So if you're a fire sign rising, the retrogrades in the fire houses are going to ask you to seek that upper limit, like I was talking about, as in like, what is the ultimate purpose of my life? What is the ultimate purpose of life in general? Those questions are going to be really important for you this year if you're a fire sign rising, right? And then
Absolutely.
so if it's activating the second house, the 6th house, and the 10th house, they call these the artha houses, which is about resources. It's about prosperity, right? And so I'm trying to visualize this. So Aries will be the second house for Pisces. So water signs rising will have the artha houses activated, right? Am I saying that
Yes.
right?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Because, yeah, second house is fire for the water, all the waters, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I know you're the same as me. We laugh. We astrologers, we actually know this stuff, but we can never think it out loud. It's crazy.
I need to put it in, I need to have a picture to back it.
I'm always the
I'm a
same
Virgo
way.
rising, and I'm always like, wait a second, did I get that
Me
right?
too. No, I do the
Um,
same thing all the time. Yeah. Yes,
so
you've got that right. So the Artha houses, which are the resource houses, the work, they're more money stuff, but they're earth houses. And you call that when you call that Trigon of Earth mastery.
mastery, Trigon of
Hmm.
mastery, right? So it's about, because resources are for what purpose? They are here so that you can learn to be skillful with your resources. The 6th house is about establishing skills,
Hmm.
right? But you have to, skills with what? With your natural resources, which
Yes.
are both tangible and intangible, right? I might be smarter than average, right? But what am I going to do with that? I have to develop skills in using my intelligence. So, right?
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
then when I do develop skills in using my intelligence, people say, "Wow, this guy's some kind of astro wizard," right? Get him out here and speak to the public, right? It takes me into the 10th house. You see?
Hmm. Hmm.
So it's a natural progression. Um, and then so we talked about fire, water.
We can go air. We're going backwards. We go to the air signs then.
Yeah, so the air signs rising will be,
Gemini, Aquarius, and Libra for people who might not know. Yeah.
yeah, so Gemini, um, these will be houses 3, 7, and 11. Okay, so this is what I call the relationship trigon, right?
Hmm.
The 7th house is one-on-one relationships. The 11th house is intra-group, that is within group relationships. And the 3rd house is intergroup, that is between groups, right? Because 3rd house is like your local neighborhood. What is a local neighborhood made of but various households? So the relationships between those households is what a community is. It's a
Hmm.
process of intergroup relationships, right? And so, and
So
that
that
makes
means that for 2024, that triad of the fire Mercuries will really ask those earth signs to kind of dive into their relational stories in this
air
year ahead.
signs. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's going to ask
Oh,
them
air
to,
signs. Yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
it's going to ask them to understand well, it's going to naturally bring up the idea of what is the limits on their relationships. They might find themselves being asked to go farther than before in relationships, right? Because fire
Mm-hmm.
naturally it inspire they might find themselves wanting to go further than they have before within certain relationships. They might also find themselves being asked to step up to go farther in terms of relationship, and they might have to, find that fire to respond to that call.
Mm.
See?
Yeah.
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 Um,
That makes sense.
and then what does that leave us with? That leaves
Earth, those earthy people, Capricorns and Tauruses and Virgos rising. How will this look for you?
right. So with Capricorn, for instance, right? Aries is the 10th house. Sorry, with
Oh, the
Capricorn
fire. Yeah, the fire will be in the 12, 4,
in
and
the
8. So we're in
yes,
those
12th and
moksha or spiritual houses in the
got it.
Jyotish tradition. Yes.
Got it. So yeah, so Sagittarius is the 12th to Capricorn. Yes. The moksha now in the Jyotish tradition, moksha means liberation.
Yes.
Um, and so there's a spiritual term there that isn't necessarily something that Westerners really think about. But liberation from what? Liberation um, from karma, from karmic entanglement, right?
Also from the Maya or the illusion of reality, like the full
Yes.
liberation, right?
Yes. Um,
Hmm.
but the way that I tend to think about it as a Westerner, if the fourth house, I remember when I first started reading astrology books, you'd see like the houses and then various terms would just be given and they wouldn't say why. They would just say fourth house. One of the things, the fourth house, the end of the matter. I'm thinking, what end of the matter? What, well, because the fourth house is not just your family, but it's the land, right? It's the root, and the land passes from person to person, but through family,
Hmm.
unless somebody has willed it otherwise. But um, lacking a will, it will pass to your family members. And so at the end of your life, the land passes to the next generation of your family. You see, so the end of the matter. So I call it the trigon of dynasty because ultimately, you know, if you serve your family well, the idea is to leave them a little bit better off than you were, right? And so,
Absolutely, yeah. And indeed, in the one of the Hellenistic traditions, the ages of the houses, the fourth house is the final, the end of your life. It
right,
represents you're also the final, you know, your swan song, your end of life,
end of the matter.
dying circumstances. And I've always
Right.
wondered how they came up with that because they go 3, 4, 5, or end of life.
Well, what they're doing there is they're saying the rising sign is like the early part of your life, and then the culminating
Mm-hmm.
sign is the midlife. The
And the
setting is
golden.
the later years, and then the fourth house is the end. So they're actually going with primary motion there.
Yes,
That's
they
what
are. Yeah, the end of time, the end of your life is at the bottom of the sky. Yeah,
yeah,
the
yeah,
darkest of the midnight. But
right.
so then for those people who are those earth signs listening today, the Virgos, Capricorns, and Tauruses, having this kind of deeper spiritual and liberation oriented and dynasty oriented thing going on, even though we can look at eighth house as monies as well as the fourth house. So it can be a financially energetic time, but if we're going with the spiritual possibility here as well, how would you interpret that as a Westerner exactly? Is it
Well, I mean, I can give you a really good example. Last year, I'm an air sign rising, and so last year my fourth house was activated with the retrograde in Taurus, and it turned out to be it was my father and my sister got in a huge fight, and he got a really bad situation where he was living, and he ended up in the hospital, and he couldn't go back to where he was living, and so we had to transition him to a nursing home because he refused to live with my sister.
Mm.
And so, literally fourth house, like, that it was my father getting sick and having to be, and all year long, like every time that those retrogrades came back, it was like, okay, now there's an issue with the nursing home and we've got, blah, blah, blah. And then, just recently he was like back in the hospital, and it's like, so it's been that 4, 8, 12 of like, and this idea of the end of it's like we've literally had to have that conversation of like, what he wants to leave behind. He's not leaving me anything material because the man has been not very responsible that way, but
Mm,
he has been careful to let me know, certain things that people want to say before they die. We've managed to do that, so that we've made our peace with each other, and
yes.
so who knows, he may have, I mean, we don't know, he may have much more time on this planet, but that process sort of forced us into these conversations where we made our peace with one another, and
Hmm.
he made it very clear how he feels and vice
Hmm.
versa. And
Yeah.
so, that's
That it's so literal though, isn't it?
so
Like sometimes,
liberation, moksha, we were liberated from typically, especially for working class guys, we don't talk about our emotions, right? In fact, that was one of the problems, is that he taught me, absolutely do not ever, and so, you don't cry, you don't talk about your and so for two men who were of that mindset, to be
mhm.
talking about this stuff, it's liberating.
Yeah. Well,
Liberating from,
yeah, and it's traditionally water, like the Aries first house system puts those trigons of, 4, 8, and 12 in water, and water
yeah,
is
it's
a
water.
flowing, emotional,
Yes.
energetic. For you guys listening now to this, go back and watch my big transits of 2023 playlist where we dive into the elemental earth year that we had in 2023. And before that, it was like roughly 2016. And it is very literal. Sometimes you guys think astrology is all esoteric, but in 2016, I moved out of one house into my own house as I separated from my then husband. That was an elemental earth year for me as an Aquarius rising, fourth house matters. And in 2023, I got this amazing new rental opportunity that is like, you can't believe what I got. So I have, experienced how literal these energies have been in both 2016,
Yeah.
2023.
Oh, and by the way, I bought a property last year too.
And you bought it. Of course you did. Oh my God. See what
I
I
bought a
mean?
farm, it's Taurus is my fourth house, so
Yeah, Taurus is mine, honey. We're both the Aquarius
yeah,
we're
that's
the
right.
lead goose for humanity here. Yeah, so like it's very literal. So go back and listen to 23, guys, and then you can trust the fire stories of 2024. So what Gary and I are doing here, besides delineating trigons, is we're doing an intro to it. I'll just do the all signs myself. But there's something Gary said on Facebook recently that truly intrigued me, just about the idea of reassessing the meaning of a Mercury retrograde, particularly about the pre-shadow and post-shadow, meaning the place that the planet travels over that he also goes backwards over, you know what I mean? And then as he goes forward again, he has to travel to the farthest degree he got before the retrograde, and that we call a pre and post shadow. And that is all kind of hyped up as just like a Mercury retrograde. And Gary, you made a very interesting comment on Facebook. Can you delineate that a bit for us about what your real thoughts are?
Yeah, so there's a lot to unpack here, and the astronomy of it. It took me a long time to figure this out, Lori. I mean, this is
Mhm.
probably the most technical achievement of my entire career. Knowing what I'm going to tell you, it's like it really was. I mean, it really was very hard to figure out. Um, but I always was left with this bad taste in my mouth because people were just fear mongering around Mercury retrograde, and if you take and you figure out the period that's before the retrograde and the period after the retrograde and you add it up, it's about half of the cycle. And so if we tell people don't do this, don't do that, don't the other, we're telling them to live in fear half their life. I'm sorry,
That's right. It's about 6 months a year.
I
Yes.
can't do that. I will not do that. I won't live in fear half my life. Obviously, there's certain transits that I have learned the hard way. Hey, you might want to back off and lay low a little bit, Bucko, for, I don't know, a week, if it's an outer planet, maybe a month. But half my life, no way, man. And so that's kind of like the sort of dharmic reason why I was just like, there's got to be a better way, right? And so I really looked at this, and what I started realizing is like, when you actually look at the path that Mercury makes through the sky, so people would use this sort of diagram, which I would call like a squished S. They would say Mercury starts here, it goes here, it comes back, and then it goes. It's just like back and forth. That is so not the truth. It never does this simple back and forth. It is not a simple back and forth. What it does is it starts like either down here and goes way up around and back down, or it starts up here and goes way down and back up, or a variety of different shapes of loops. It's a
Mm.
looping shape. So it's like this sort of cosmic detour, if you will. You know, you're going down the highway, you're going down the interstate, rolling along, and then all of a sudden, detour, you know, oh, we got to get off. And now here's the thing. There might be something really cool on that detour that you would never have seen if you were just flying down the highway,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and it might be something that could life changing. And so, but if you're just coming from this attitude of like, oh, avoid, you know, don't even be on the road during this, you know, extended time, you're going to miss all of that, you know? And
Yeah.
so, and
Not
so,
just in the shadow, right? The pre-shadow, post-shadow element is one thing, but then even during the retrograde, my perspective is the proximity to Earth, because that's why he seems retrograde. He's really
that's the
close
other
to us.
thing.
Gives
Yeah,
him that sort of that magician quality, the trickster, sure, but there's
absolutely.
magician in there. There's close, it's
Absolutely.
synchronicities. My synchronicities go over the top during retrogrades. Like I pay
Yeah.
attention to them because I can't not. They're so
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. So the other thing is there's this Cazimi moment in the middle of the retrograde where Mercury's
Mhm.
conjunct the sun. And I use those magically for a long time, man. And I have had my clients using them. I posted my first podcast on the day of one of these. And of course, my podcast is one of the best things that's ever happened to me. And people
Mhm.
say, well, don't do anything during Mercury retrograde because you're just going to have to do it over. And it's like, well, isn't that kind of the idea with a podcast? You know, like,
Well, but the heart of the sun, the Cazimi's got its own potency, right? So there's
yeah.
always, it's almost like the eye of the hurricane or
And
something
as
where
you
everything.
say, there's this closeness to Earth. So think about this for a second. This space between the Earth and the sun, this what astronomers call the astronomical unit. I call it the Holy of Holies. It's the only place in the entire universe that we know that holds life.
Mm,
And there's only 3 planets that are capable of penetrating that space: Mercury, Venus, and Mars. And when Mercury is at conjunct the sun, he's at the closest. So it's like he's going down into this space and furrowing out a space for a seed to be planted. And then later that seed can sprout and create new life in your life. It can create new abundance in your life,
yeah.
you know? So
That's a
there's
beautiful way of seeing it. I've never thought of it that way, but that makes so much sense to me.
Yeah. And so there's this wonderful opportunity, but if you're just approaching it from an avoidance perspective, you're never going to get any of those opportunities, you know? And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it
Mm-hmm.
can be really hard. I mean, you look, I'm not going to lie to you, it's been really hard dealing with my father over this last year, but like I said, I mean, I don't have to worry about, and I was, I really didn't think, I really thought that he, we would go, he would go to the end of his life and there were certain things that we would never talk about. But
Mm.
that has changed, and I'm really glad that it's changed,
Yeah.
and
Well,
so I'm
that's a
not saying it's going to
liberation.
be easy, but I'm saying that there are precious things that you can get even in the midst of whatever. And so if you avoid all the difficulties, you miss the gems in that as well.
Absolutely. Those retrogrades are magical and they're mysterious and they're purposeful and they're divinely intelligent. And so, yes, like not leaving your house or planning a trip or all the fear around it is kind of like
I
pop
mean, dude,
astrology.
I've gone on tour, lecture tour, like many states away from my home, driving around back and forth, and I don't even have a smartphone, by the way, right? Like I'm
Hmm.
I'm out driving around, giving lectures, total Mercury, and it's Mercury retrograde. I'm living my life, man. I mean, yeah, stuff happens, but like,
Yeah.
you got to deal with it, man. And so
Okay. Yeah, me too. I'm the same way. I don't really, I live my life by the fear factor on Mercury retrograde. I quite love them. You did mention the Cazimis. I know this way it works on my channel. So there'll be so many comments underneath it. When are they? When are they? So
Yeah, yeah,
Mercury
yeah.
goes into the heart of the sun. I have my notes here for that. April the 11th in Aries at 22 degrees and August the 19th it 26 Leo and December 6th at 14 Sag. At least those are my quick notes that I made the other day. I mean, around those areas, but those I think are the right dates.
Yeah.
And everyone should just stay tuned for them because you can actually get divine downloads, insights. Great day for meditation, journaling, free association writing, asking a question of the divine and looking for your answer. On that day, where are the signs? Where are the omens? Where are the portents coming through? And also initiating something that you really want to do that you think might be super powered around communication, speech, writing, commercial endeavors, maybe as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Wonderful opportunities. Uh,
Hmm.
and depending on what they're located with, I mean, the one in Aries is going to be, of course, with the North Node will be there, which is the Caput Draconis, the head of the dragon. So there's this really powerful evolutionary force that's bringing new energy into that area of your life anyway.
Hmm.
And then the Mercury retrograde is going to be like stirring stuff up and saying, hey, if it's going to be chaos, you might as well allow this new energy in, because like I'm not going to let you have just same old anyway. You're not going to be able to ignore this new energy and say, no thanks, I'm fine, I'll just go on with the devil I know, blah blah blah, right?
Absolutely. And you have to remember you only get these lovely fire Kazimis every 7 or so years, like probably was like 2017 or something and 17, 18 maybe. But you gotta use them or lose them, right? Yeah, you may as well grab it by, and harness it by, it's here. And this one is even rare because we have the North Node with it, as well
Yeah,
as co-present Chiron hanging in there in Aries. So this has a kind of a real quality of like a once every 50 or more years to connect the air cycle
right.
with the 50-year synodic
Yeah,
cycle, the
yeah.
Chiron cycle. By the way, you'll have a kick out of this because Gary and I are asteroid junkies. The asteroid Atlantis is at 2150 or something of Aries in my chart. So this Cazimi on April 11th is drilling into my Atlantis.
Nice.
You never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, yeah, wow. You might just uncover the Akashic records or something,
Well,
right?
it is in my third house of communication and writing
Oh
with
yeah,
everything else in my chart. So yeah, all
nice.
my Aries placements. So everyone use those dates liberally and enjoy them, right?
Absolutely.
Um, we
Yeah.
were going to talk a little bit about as well. I'll give you guys the dates then. The whole retrograde is April the 1st, next year, it's 27 Aries to 15 Aries on the 25th when the retrograde turns around. And is that correct? I don't know about that note. That note looks dicey. 27 to 15. I guess that's the retrograde. Okay. And then August the 5th, we start at 4 degrees of Virgo, but it does dovetail or back end into Leo and turns around on August 28th at 28 Leo. And then November 26th, 22 Sag, and turning around December 15th at 6 degrees Sagittarius. The other thing Gary and I thought we might mention is that we recently, in August of 2023, had a Venus Cazimi in Leo from her retrogradation, resetting the Leo sky on August the 13th. So
Yeah.
that's also just to be noting that this energy of the sky is pretty would you call it, like christened or juiced up by that Venus every 4-year Venus possibility of a Cazimi.
Yep, yep. And so the Venus cycle that we're in is about Leo, and Venus dives down through um that area of Leo, which is exactly where the Cazimi is going to be, and it's near. So she dives past the heart of the lion, Regulus, and then she
Hmm.
dives down right into the area that's known as the Ashlesha Nakshatra in Jyotish. It's the
Hmm.
head of the Hydra, so it's the head of the water snake. So there's this very um, passionate um, and sort of Kundalini. It's sort of feminine, but Kundalini but it's grasp, like, you know, snakes want to grab stuff and coil around it. So like you might find yourself just overtaken with desire for something that is like sort of irrational, or you know, like, oh my God, like where is this coming from, you know? It's because, especially with Venus having stirred up that area, right? Like, and Mercury is going to be reactivating a Venus energy and the Ashlesha energy. And that's, you
Mm-hmm.
know, it's very alchemical. Um, you know, I was thinking about this recently. I talked at this conference called Astromagia, and there was a lady there giving a talk. Her name is Sasa Ravich. I'm not sure if I'm saying her last name correctly, Ravich. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
sure, but she was talking about the constellation Hydra, and I was talking to her about this, the fact that, you know, Leo and the Regulus and Hydra, Alphard is the Alpha star, like that they're there together. And then after the talk, I was realizing, you know, Leo, the lion, and Hydra, those are the first two labors of Hercules.
Oh my
He,
God, that's fascinating.
yeah, and so there's this sense of like opening of the alchemical journey of self-improvement, because the whole idea was that Hercules was deemed guilty of a crime, and he was given these labors to as a way to pay for his crime. And so this idea
I
of
think he murdered his family.
yeah, I didn't want to necessarily
Oh yeah, bad words on YouTube. Yeah.
trigger alert. Yeah, it was really bad. Um, I think he was, you know, technically crazy when he did it, or like that would be the defense, would be like temporary insanity or whatever. And so that's why he was given labors to do rather than just, you know,
Right.
um, and but the idea is that these labors were about this journey of self improvement, so like the hero's journey, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so there's this sense of like the lion and the hydra. You know, the lion in alchemy is like this force that devours something. And so there's the first thing that you've got to do to change is to burn up, crush, or destroy whatever mindset you brought to the thing. Like if like your
Mm-hmm.
mental structures, like if something's not working, it's not working because you can't see it straight. You don't have a clear mental picture of that thing,
Right. Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
invariably. And so the first thing is the lion has to devour that and to break it down. And then the hydra represents the feminine, like you said, the unconscious, sort of understanding it from a more emotional or irrational, like a somatic point of view, you know, so that there's this sort of other um, like from maybe from dreams or from a feminine perspective, you know. And so these two constellations being activated by that retrograde, it might be a really potent time to um consider like um going on that journey of self-improvement, or going on some kind of creative, like Leo being about creativity and stuff, going on some kind of like creative adventure that forces you to let go of preconceived notions and to entertain seemingly crazy or irrational notions. And then in the end, you want to it's not that you can't have any of the notions you had before, or that you must adopt a seemingly crazy or irrational notion, but you come back around to say, okay, now that I've let go of what I was holding on to for temporarily at least, and I've entertained some things I would have said were completely bonkers,
Yes.
now
Right.
maybe I can put this back together in a way that is possible to actually work, because the palette that I have to paint with is full, and it's not just this limited viewpoint that wasn't working.
Absolutely. And then for everyone listening, your Leo part of your sky based on your rising sign and using whole sign houses will be different. But this story is true for that part of your story of your life. Like I'm Aquarius rising, so it's my seventh house of even my audience, my clients, but also significant relationships. I was thinking back when you were speaking about how precise this is, because that Cazimi of Venus on the 13th, I think was at 20 degrees. And I remember because I did a video on this, and this retrograde turnaround is at 21 degrees, and then on August the 28th, and then the Cazimi is going to happen on the 26th degree. Is that correct? Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I don't know. My dates are a little off there. I have to go look at because I
I
just
think
have
it's
scratched notes on
28. I
pencil.
think that the Cazimi's around 28.
Is it 28? Okay.
Might be, yeah.
Or
27
20.
is that star I was talking about. So
Okay, I
it's
think it's
26,
26. I think
27,
because
28,
yeah, I think the
somewhere.
Cazimi's 26. But I
Okay.
remember when Venus was doing that star point in the summer after a never seen before, 4 month stay in Leo, she was in a trine to Chiron, and there was always something that felt to me, Chiron and Aries, that the wounded healer, the healer, that there's something about this cycle that she's initiated, which can be a 4-year story, that does invite that Leo part of our sky to have a profound healing as well.
Hmm.
And then we've got
Yeah, that's the
Hydra and
whole point.
Lion,
Yeah, that's the
Hydra and
whole
Lion.
point of the alchemy is like to combine those two, the masculine and the feminine, and to create a wholeness. It's because it's only from wholeness that our limitations can be healed,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. Totally.
Absolutely.
And I think to me, I'm looking forward to all this fire in the sky, so to speak, personally, right? But I mean, in the collective, it could be, rather intense. We'll see how that plays out.
Yeah.
Um, did you have any thoughts about that Sagittarius? We tied in the Aries guys with the Chiron, well, with the North Node Rahu being there, amplifying, intensifying the Aries retrograde in April. Then we have that energy of some replication of the Venus story from last August, which has already begun to unfold. And then we have that Sag 22 degree on November 26th, beginning of a retrogradation
You
till
want to look
December
at the
15th.
loop for that one? We
Yeah,
can.
let's look at the loop. And
Okay.
for all you Sages out there, this is your one. This is your story this fall.
All right, let's see. I've got the loop here. Okay. So, here, let me share my screen. Can you see this?
Yes, can see it perfectly.
Okay, so let's go. Now you'll see, of course, the constellation of Scorpio here, because in the sky, the constellation Scorpio is at the section that in the signs we call Sagittarius. And there's a whole thing there with the way I explain it to people who are just sort of lay people is like, look, tropical zodiac and the sidereal zodiac are kind of like ex-lovers or ex-husband wife, you know, the signs, like they share the names of the constellations, but that's it. Like she's divorced, she's moved on, she's got her own life. She just didn't want to change her name because it's so much freaking trouble, right? Like, yes, the names are the same, but they're two totally different things.
Right. I love that. That's a really funny way of putting it. Okay.
At any rate, the loop in this case is one that is similar to the one that we just went through. And so
Oh, we're recording December 13th, everyone. You mean the
yeah,
one we're going into?
yeah,
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 yeah, yeah.
yeah, sorry, the one we're going into.
Yeah.
Right. So, and that's because this part of the sky, Mercury does a roughly the same shape. He does a different shape in different parts of the sky, and I could talk about that, but we don't necessarily need to.
Mm-hmm.
The point is that if we look at this diagram, Mercury goes through the right near the heart of the Scorpion. This is Antares, the royal star. So this line in the middle, that's the ecliptic plane. That's the orbit of Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And so Mercury's going below the ecliptic plane, down by the heart of the Scorpion, just kind of chugging along, like pretty level, right? Like it's pretty same old, same old. And then all of a sudden it turns and goes up. Now check this out. During the retrograde, he's going up. Okay.
Yep.
So there might be something that changes direction that's challenging in our life, where it's not the same, but it's actually improving.
Right. Yes.
It's going up. right? So some seeming problem, don't jump in to fix it right away, because guess what? It might actually be an improvement.
Mhm.
And now the problem with that is after the retrograde, when it turns direct, it goes back down. And so it might be that in this case, like, even though you may not want to return to normal, that there was an actual improvement during the retrograde, things kind of do what, statisticians call a regression to the mean, like
Yeah.
it just kind of levels out.
Well,
Um,
can I interpret it my own way?
yeah, absolutely.
I kind of
Yeah,
like the hero's journey or something. You get the boon and you take it back down to the valley, So there's some kind of epic, upward retrograde that sends something new, maybe exciting, maybe, uplifting into your life, but then you could take it back down with you. Can we go with that one instead?
Sure, yeah. There's a lot of different ways. And yes, I think that interpreting these in your own navigate through your own navigational, particularly somatically, like just look at what each part of the loop, like the first one's just kind of going along level. How does that feel? Feels pretty stable. Like there's not a lot of change happening
Yeah,
in the
that's right.
so-called pre-retrograde shadow. It's just kind of same old, same old. And then all of a sudden it turns and whoop up. Like you can feel that, like, right? And
Yeah,
it
it
turns
almost looks
fire
like it,
spirit,
it almost has a well, it just makes me feel like something's being flung upwards, really, like
yeah,
whoosh in that
right?
picture. Oh,
Yep. And so there's this upwards, and fire. Remember, we talked about fire
yeah.
wants to seek up and out. It wants to seek the limit. And so
Yeah.
there's this contrary thing that happens in your life, but it's showing you this upper limit.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then after that, there's like this sort of gentle glide back down
Yes.
that
Look at the gentle
so
glide. It's very
okay,
soft.
so the pre-retrograde is not that much going on actually in terms of, and then there's this very dynamic upward motion, and then there's this sort of this gentle
Hmm.
glide back down. And so we might just think about that for a second. Like it might be that that it's that during the lead up to the retrograde, you're gonna think, this retrograde stuff's overblown, there's nothing happening, like these astrologers don't really know what the hell they're talking about. Wait a
Well,
second.
so that brings me to one thought I have. When you brought this up a few times, I've seen you say it, but it's the importance of actually looking at the real sky. Whether you're looking with your eyeballs or you even look at this, which is the real sky, not just a bunch of numbers on a flat two-dimensional plane, or same with a flat astrology horoscope chart on your software. I mean, in Babylonian astrology, they're highly interpretive of visual field data to inspect, like when Venus is visible, what are the what does it look like? What's her temperament? What else is going on?
Are
And
there
I think that's
clouds? Was there lightning?
yeah,
Did the
yeah,
insects make a lot of noise that day? All of that stuff.
right, yeah.
Absolutely.
And so we kind of lose touch with the reality that this is a living sky system that we're intersecting with, not a bunch of numbers on a piece of paper. And I have to remind myself to do the same thing. I'm out here in Georgia in the South, and this guy that I'm staying with, my partner's brother-in-law, has this hot tub, and we're out far enough from any light. We're in the countryside that
Nice.
I'm sitting in that hot tub at night, Gary, because I live in a high ambient light city, right, Vancouver. And I'm like stunned by how stunning the sky is. You know what I mean? Like
Really
it's like I
incredible.
can
Absolutely.
remember. And I remember you all guys, and you have to check out Gary's photos. He takes like an incredibly gifted, like gallery level photos of the sky, of the stars, of the heavens, of the planets, which is another cool thing about you. So I want to make sure we finish up on a note that we didn't leave anything out,
Sure.
because I really wanted to make sure I covered my ground. Trigons, the times of the retrograde, the meaning for each of the signs in terms of it's an identity or mastery or dynasty trigon or relationship trigon, which we did give those full due. And we
Uh-huh.
talked about what we did. I wanted everyone to see, the sky stories with retrogrades are not same old, same old. They all depend on the particular loop that Mercury makes and what it might mean interpretively. And it's not also just shadow time. Everything's the same as a retrograde. Yeah.
Yeah, the retrogrades are very different. Each one it has its own unique character. There's a different shape. And so this idea that, like pre-retrograde, retrograde, post-retrograde, like, the amount of change that you might experience in any one of those could be very different. So that's important, I think, to remember. Yeah, for sure. And yeah,
For
I think
sure.
I wrote some notes of what you wanted to cover, and I think we pretty much covered everything you
I
had on.
think we did. I
Yeah.
really think we did. This is going to be very educational for a lot of my listeners because most of them are like astrologically literate. They love to learn astrology and they're, learners and curious about synodic cycles, etc. So this kind of content is right up my audience's alley.
That's
So
awesome.
reminding everybody that, my dear, because I'll just append the back end of all signs for everyone after this. The best places to find you, of course, are your website. And I put that in the description box below and introduced you at the beginning. You're teaching a
Awesome.
conference. Link will be in the box below. And I can put a link to your Amazon for your book, all about the deep elemental earth cycles and fire, water, and air of
Yeah.
Mercury.
The other thing that we do in the book is that, remember how we talked about every 6 to 7 years, the element returns?
Yeah.
So I take that process through your entire lifetime and I talk about, okay, each time it returns, you're a little bit older and wiser. And so what does it mean for an older, wiser person to be revisiting this and this idea that it's a developmental cycle throughout your life that's
Mm.
refining, alchemically refining, like the elixir, or your soul is growing and evolving. And so that's the other thing that, like, not only should we not run from these things, we should dive into them because there's beauty in the chaos, but also, like, that's going to help us grow, and each time we're going to grow a little bit more over the course of a lifetime. That it
Mm.
can be really profound,
Oh,
um
yeah. Yes,
that
there's probably
last
at least
chapter.
seven.
Yeah, that, like, a lot of people, they reference that last chapter when they talk about the book. They're like, "Oh my God, like this is exactly what's going on in my life right now." Because the idea, like, one of the things that I learned from being a counselor is you have to address people where they are in their life cycle, right? You can't talk to a 60-year-old person as if they're a young adult. Like,
Hmm.
it's going to piss them off because and you
It's so
can't talk
true.
to a young person like as if they're like midlife or retiree, because it's going to piss them off.
Yeah.
And
Well,
so,
sometimes that's the value though of astrology too. The older we get, those return cycles, that repeat, rinse, repeat, we can become conscious of them and begin to, navigate the water of a return cycle in a way of being aware of it. So I love the idea of what you just said. I mean, you're going to get 6, 7, 8, an average lifespan of these elemental earth years, returning elemental water years, fire, and what did I forget? Air. And like this is like Mercury takes up like half a year in fire, basically. That's a long time.
yes.
So this is a big deal to really tune into how your fire sign houses in your whole sign house system, guys. Don't give me Placidus. Just trust me. Whole sign house system will play out. It's easiest just to look at like the meanings of the whole sign houses and really say, well, if I've been through this twice, and in my bottom of my video, guys, I'm going to put a little. My assistant will put a little note giving everybody the exact dates of the last two, fire cycles so they can go back to those years. I think 17 might have been one of them, right? 2017,
Yep.
18.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. That's right. Yep.
So you can
That's
compare. Yeah.
Yeah, my book came out just before that last fire cycle, which was in, 2017. So
Yeah.
2017, 2018 would have been the last one. Yep.
Yeah,
That's
exactly. And so those repeat, repent, rinse, repeat, and I'll gather the data and put it underneath the video so people can do
perfect.
their own investigation. I always
Yeah,
tell people, be a sleuth of your sky. Treat astrology like an empiricist. You have a hypothesis, and you test it. You're looking to
absolutely.
like be curious with it. Don't just take anyone's word for it. That's how Gary
Absolutely.
ended up pioneering Mercury.
That's exactly right.
That's exactly right. Oh my goodness. Well, that was so much fun. I always love connecting
Yay.
with you, Gary. Oh, I'm so
Yeah.
sad I won't be at the February event because I really was hoping I'd be in
Yeah,
Georgia long enough
especially
to pop
being in
down.
Georgia already,
I know, but I'm heading back to Vancouver. I know, so
Well,
close, but not quite, right?
yeah,
No,
another
but
time, I guess.
I'm
Yeah.
coming to the swamp. If you get that
But
swamp organized,
I'm
I'm,
really
I'm at
happy that you're an honorary Southerner, though.
Oh, I
That's
love it down here. Georgia's really sweet. People are kind. The accent's really funky. It's pastoral and beautiful.
Yes. I'm
Yeah, yeah.
really happy for you. Wonderful.
Thanks. Yeah, I got
Yeah.
some good star
You
skies to
got,
look
you
at
got, you
too.
got
So
your Taurus on.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So everyone
Cool.
have a wonderful Mercury retrograde. The next section after Gary leaves will be me doing the all signs portion of this reading for you. And always listen for your rising sign, most accurate, sun and moon secondarily. And Gary, we're going to hang up.
Thank you.
Blessings to you. Bye-bye.
Blessings. Bye-bye.
Bye. We're going to go through the elemental fire year for every single sign, and we're going to do it by triplicity. I'm going to talk about the fire signs. I'm going to talk about the earth, the air, and the water. We're going to go through each of those triplicities to talk about how this elemental fire year, last seen in 2017, is playing out for you based on your sign and what you can expect from it. This is an addendum video at the end of my recording with the amazing Mercury expert, Gary Cayton. So let's get the all signs portion done. And you're going to see me basically backing end into this chart. You won't see me directly here because I'm addenduming. So here we go, guys. Let's talk about this. I'm so excited as an Aries sun, moon, and Mercury, sun and moon, about this fire energy that's playing in the sky for us. So we're going to start with Aries, but we're also going to jump to like Leo, and then we're going to jump to Sagittarius, an unusual order for the simple reason I'm covering the triplicities or the trigons of, in this case, we're starting with fire. And then we're going to move through each separate trigon. I know that you might have listened in to know that Gary and I talked about the concept of a trigon. So hopefully that's nothing new to you at this point because we did discuss it. But in astrology of India, they're very much about these triplicities or Trikona houses and how they all intersect with each other. Now, if you are a fire sign in the sky, meaning your rising sign, sun or moon, is in the sign of Leo, in the sign of Sag or Aries, this is going to be for you. Okay, so I'm going to talk to all of you about a general theme and then I'll break it down a bit per sign. So first of all, when you are talking about fire, right, the idea of fire, what is fire actually about? It's initiative, it's drive, it's things that are new, it's things that are fresh, it's taking chances, taking risks, being bold, being adventurous, being daring even. And it's what the fire houses represent, 1, 5, and 9. It's a trigon of identity. Who are you? Because fire represents soul or spirit. And so what are you? Who are you in this world is what we talk about when we're talking about fire. The essence of the wands and the tarot is the essence of fire. And it has to do with our more spiritual or eternal or soulful spirited nature. So if you're an Aries, sun, moon, and rising, especially rising sign, of course, to be more accurate, this is not seen since 2017, fire time for you, in which Mercury will amplify the 1, 5, and 9 houses of your chart, bringing into being this energy over the course of the year of you coming into a sense of deeper awareness of who and what you are and what you want, coming into a deeper knowledge of yourself, your dharma, ninth house, your path in life, as well as your creativity, your romance, and your love, and those particular factors. Now, I'm going to focus for each sign on one particular area, which I think it's got the most juice for you. So we'll do it that way. And then we'll get, talking about it in all possible ways. I'm going to just stop the share for a minute because I got this like really bad lighting and it's making me squint. I think I'm going to fix something. I'll be right back. Okay, guys, I'm just back and I was just, oops, my mic, just trying to adjust the lighting here. So I'm not squinting into the screen at the end of the day. And here we go. So we're going to say this, Aries. This is a time I told you what the meanings of those houses are, but April the 12th, there is the Cazimi in the sign of you, where we also have Chiron and the North Node traveling for those eclipses. So understand that this is a very intense, bigger than larger than life, more destined type of Mercury in the fire element, in the trigon here of identity for you. It's a big deal for your Aries rising people, especially, to really, really understand a huge reset of your identity in the world, sun about your career and your moon. And that Cazimi is on the 12th of April is it 12th of April? I think so, at 12 degrees, but it's in the month of April. I'll be doing a whole video on that, so stay tuned for that. Now I'm having a doubt about the date that I just wrote down, so let me double check it. The 12th of April, I don't know, really? 12/12, that just seems like, really, what are the odds of a 12/12? That's what happens when you are writing things down. Okay, so let me just double check the date of the Cazimi and make sure that I've got it right. I know, guys, I'm off to a rough start. It's been a long day. Sorry about that. Let's just double check the Cazimi date in April. On my software. Just give me a minute. April the 12th at 12 Aries. I didn't make that up. Okay. So you can't make this stuff up. Alrighty. April the 12th at 12 Aries. We've got that Cazimi. So if you're an Aries sun, moon, or rising near 12 degrees within 3 degrees of either side, it's going to be a particularly important reset button for you. I have my sun at 14 degrees and my moon at 8 degrees. So we're going to feel it for various reasons in our lives as this reset button kicks in. And don't forget, the whole Trikon is open up in August 19th. There's a Cazimi in your house of children and romance, fertility, pregnancy. And then there's a Cazimi December 6th in Sagittarius. And that's going to open up foreign lands, foreign travels next December 6th, academic success, or changes in that part of your chart as well. We're going to move next to Leo, and I know this will confuse people when they're watching the premiere, but I want you to get the gist of this in terms of watching the sky on the screen with me so you can understand the nature of these trigons. So the fire sign of Leo is experiencing this trigon of identity, fire, initiative, and action, dharma, and purpose happening in the story of the houses 1, 5, and 9 in 2024, not seen since 1917 and not for another 2017 and not for another 7 years. Because you are a Leo, pay strong attention, of course, to August the 19th, where there is a new reset button at 26 degrees of Leo. You are resetting your identity. Well, at the same time, we keep having like the April 12th Aries reset with the North Node and Chiron in the place of the deepest Dharma, your spiritual philosophy and beliefs, your foreign lands and travel, things to do with court and court matters. All of that is highly activated for you, as well as, of course, your house of romance and children. Big changes in houses 1, 5, and 9 during 2024. Then we move to the Trigon of Sagittarius, or the energy of Sag experiencing the Trigon of identity. As we do this, we see here as a Sagittarius sun, moon, or rising sign, the energy of this Cazimi activates the part of your sky that is, again, the identity trigon. Pay specific attention to December the 6th at 14 Sagittarius. Of course, if your rising sign, sun or moon, is near 14 degrees of Sagittarius, you're feeling this quite strongly. And when next December 6th, you finish this fire energy strong and reset something in your life. So pay attention to the vibe of that reset. April the 12th, with the North Node and Chiron, we have that reset in Aries, which is your house of children, entrepreneurship, creativity, fun, play, and pleasure, romance, if I didn't say that. And then we see on April, and money luck. And then on April the 12th, and then on August the 19th at 26 degrees of Leo, you experience a reset in your 9th house. And pay attention then to opportunities. December 6th, add, a few weeks for travel, for court matters, for foreign lands, for foreign shores, book publishing developments, things to do with religious philosophy or academic environments to really establish some significant area of change for you. Now we're moving to the next series of signs, and that will be the earth signs. If you are a Taurus, sun, moon, or rising sign, it would be helpful if I put you on the ascendant, right? This is an energy of the moksha houses 12, 8, and 5 about spiritual liberation, right? About awakening to the deeper meaning of life, about finding your spiritual path. But it's also very resourceful, has to do with what Gary Cayton calls dynasty or dynasty, the trigon of dynasty or dynasty. And it can involve wealth because 8th house is chunky money and inheritances and shared resources with a spouse. The 4th house is land, property, home, but money from your family of origin, from your parents, from your ancestral line. And 12th house can be revenue generated from foreign shores and far off entities and places. So we can also see in this energy of 12, 8, and 4 that are activated, you'll have more initiative, more daring, more boldness, more willful self-starter bravery to go ahead and to generate new kinds of wealth in your life. But also you can say this because it's a moksha house and it has to do with that spiritual liberation, that you may also find that that also is brought up for you in 2024. Go to, the series of events, on April the 12th, there's this Cazimi at 12 degrees of Aries in your 12th house. It could be very subtle, dreams at night, having a kind of a deep insight into your past lives or who you are. On August the 19th in Leo, we see the Cazimi happening at 26 degrees. And especially if you're Taurus, 26 degrees sun, moon, or rising, can bring up some big changes and openings and shifts around your home, property, land, and where you are going to reside. On December the 6th, There's a 14 Sagittarius, and you could take receipt of shared resources in a marital separation, money from an inheritance, maybe something to do even with deep downloads and insights from this world and beyond, talking to dead people, occult mysteries, and magic. And we're going to do the Virgo Earth Trigon. Same thing, the moksha houses, the dynasty houses of wealth, but also deeply spiritual and awakening energies. And you know, you're coded for this kind of fire-like awakening, right? Because all of your moksha houses are fire. They're bold. They're kind of like sparking very quickly. It's a spontaneous awakening as possible, or you can kindle the fire of awakening. So for you guys, you know, pay attention, of course, to the fact that it is going to be April the 12th at 12 degrees of the sign of Aries in your chunky money house, if this is a Cazimi, and maybe expect as a fallout from that reset button, some sort of inheritance money, some sort of shared money with your spouse, some kind of stock that takes off, some kind of unexpected or some positive chunky money could come through as a result of that. August the 19th, the 26-degree Leo, it's very subtle, dreams at night, opportunities for foreign travel or foreign revenue. And then on December the 6th at 14 degrees of Sagittarius, this applies to a potential move or change of home. Sagittarius is your fourth house. If you are more so like a sun, moon, or rising, especially moon or a rising sign, Virgo. And then you would flank that 14-degree Sag by 3 degrees on either side. 11 to 17 degrees, it really can indicate a move or a change of home or homeland or something like that. So keep that in mind as well. And you may also perhaps just do something extremely different about your home because you have an axis of 8-4 activated for you. This could be buying and selling homes as well. Okay, just so you know. And Capricorn, the trigon of a dynasty, has to do with wealth and money, but also Moksha House about spiritual awakening and liberation as well. And you can see that the story is going to put that Aries Cazimi on April the 12th in your sky in a place that has to do with your home. So property, land, home, real estate, legacy wealth from family of origin even. This is something going on for you, April the 12th, and possibly because of the activation of 8th, buying and selling of real estate and property is possible for you. And April 12th can open up a door. Because this is at 12 degrees of the sign of Aries, it will really also impact more acutely any Capricorn, Sun, Moon, and Rising within 3 degrees before and after 12 Aries. Then on August the 19th at 26 degrees of Leo, you're going to have a chunky money or mortgage or stock investments or inheritance money energetic as that opens up a doorway in that money house of the 8th on August the 19th at 26 degrees of Leo. Of course, benefiting the later degree Capricorns like 25 to 29 degrees or even 23 to 29 degrees of Leo most acutely, of Capricorn most acutely. And then on December 6th at 14 degrees of Sagittarius, that's quite subtle, but it can involve international travel, relocations to foreign countries, revenue from foreign places, but also deep soul work, pay attention to your dreams, all of that, December the 6th. And it applies broadly to all Capricorns, degree irrelevant. All right, I'm going through in Gemini next. Gemini, you're a part of the air triad, you know, the air sign trigons. And so we're going to talk about the fact that this is the Kama houses or the relational houses in your chart, the trigon of relationship. And so you're experiencing a lot of dynamic change you haven't seen since like 2017 and not for another 7 years in the way you relate to others, self and other, self and self and self and many. You can note that, and this is for sun, moon, and rising, as I explained earlier, the difference, please listen to the earlier part of this intro. The April the 12th at 12 degrees of Aries Cazimi is happening in your house of good spirit, but it's where you generate great revenue, like gains from your career and favors from people in places of power. But it also is about what did I just say? Yeah, it's also about an energy of your wishes, dreams, and hopes. Like, what do you want to have, desire to have, dream into being for your life? But sometimes windfalls or pennies from heaven are here. So some of you may be experiencing some financial windfalls as well as a result of the April 12th Cazimi at 12 degrees. And it's also about those career gains as well. I mean, Mercury's retrograde, of course, on all these Cazimi, so he's revising the strategy, but he's also enhancing the energy. Pay attention, especially sun, moon, and rising Gemini between like close to 12 degrees, 3 degrees on either side. And then you're having the next energy on August 19th at 26 degrees of Leo. Spotlight your third house of trips, travel, neighborhood, neighbors, siblings, younger, especially maybe cousins, things to do with skills-based learning, things to do with your online world. This can really escalate some success or changes of direction in a positive way, especially connected to your career of great gains, but also broaden your networks and your networking abilities in the online media world or with the neighbors and neighborhood people. Also travel. It can be happening August 19th, especially connected to siblings. And then on December the 6th at 14 degrees of Sagittarius, you will see this energy in the house of your public, your audience, your marriage partners, and your people you serve and meet in the world. I mean, it's like the others of your life. And this, especially one-on-one, will expand. But it's like, it's not just one and many. It's like, your audience is there, clients are there. So you will experience some kind of reset button at 14 degrees of Sag, implying that you Geminis with something within 3 degrees of either side of 14 are going to experience a new direction, a reset, a revision of how you reach out to those people. And if it's about marriage and relationship in that area of your chart as well. So Libra, sun, moon, and rising sign. The energy here is about that trigon of relationship and comma houses that are relational, also about ideas of 1, 5, and 9. 1, 5, and 9. Sorry. Blah. Sorry. Of 3, 7, and 11. So pay attention to April the 12th at 12 degrees of Aries. You wake up, your significant other house. This could bring you a new relationship. It could renegotiate the terms of an existing one. Legal contracts, business partnerships are all happening here. It's really good for deal making around legal matters, even buying and selling real estate because of the square to Capricorn. Then you could, or a marriage proposal or old lovers from the past coming back. But the Cazimi is a deeper meaning. It's a reset of how your one-on-one partnerships and contractual agreements and relational connections to your audience is going to unfold for you over the course of the year of 2024, remembering the last time this kind of reset happened was 2017. August the 19th at 26 degrees of Leo is a reset in your larger social groups of networking and the way you have influence over groups of people and the way you interact with groups of people, also in the way you create gains from your own career path. So there's another energy amplified up here. And this is going to especially, every time I say this, this is 26 Leo, is your Libra, sun, moon, and rising within 3 degrees of 26 Leo above and below. Always look for the proximity by degree to your ascendant, your sun, or your moon. Then on December 6th, Sagittarius, 14 degrees is opportunity for travel, for connecting to siblings, for connecting to new ideas, for expanding and revising the way you reach people from your online social media world, and maybe even involved a opportunity for some new educational pursuit or teaching pursuit on December 6th at what? A few weeks before and after, but it's kind of broadening the larger theme of 2024. Now I'm going to stop the share. I'm going to be right back. Now don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and all those good things. Share this kind of content if you like it. I'm just pausing the recording for a split second. Did anybody notice a costume change? It is warm in here today. The heat is probably off, but it's a sunny, warm day. Maybe 15 degrees Celsius in Georgia on December 15th, where I'm recording for my Patreon community, early access ad free. And I just wow, I need to put something lighter on. So let's get going. Back to the next trigon. So we talked about the trigons, right? Of the energies from Aries, and then we went for Taurus for the Earth trigons. And am I sharing the stuff? I don't know what I'm sharing with you, but it's not my chart, right? It's not the chart. Sorry about that. Coming back. Oh, guys, I gotta laugh, And we're sharing, Hit the like button, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. All right. Yeah. All right. Thanks, guys. we're moving in air. So we're in the air trigons. Okay. And then we're moving to water. So back to you guys, Libra. I think I was finishing though. Where I went, April was through the Aries corridor. Yes, and I did the 11th house of broadening your influence, your social networks, your greater career gains. December the 6th in Sagittarius. Yes, trips, travels, and siblings. Okay, I finished your sign. Moving into the next one, which is air from Aquarius. I'm one of you. I'm Aquarius, 18 or 19 degree ascendant. Depends on my rectification, 18 degrees. All right, so we Aquarians, lead goose for humanity, Pluto coming into our house, the great conjunction Jupiter, Saturn in our sign. We are leading humanity. Let us go, lead goose us. Yay, Aquarius. And this is going to be April. First of all, the Trikon is still the same, right? We're in the relational Trikon or the Kama houses of 1, 5, of 3, 7, and 11. And this is going to be April in Aries. There is an activation on the 12th degree of Aries. This is opening up April, perhaps a travel opportunity, some success by revisions in your online business or online world, social media platforms, sibling connections, things to do with writing projects, which I hope to be doing April the 12th, especially Mercury in the house of writing, a reset button with a North Node, amplifying that energy and giving it extra strength, particularly relevant to anybody with a sun, moon, or rising within proximity to 12 degrees, 3 degrees on either side. It's very intense. August the 19th, 26 degrees of Leo in the significant marriage and relationship house. And you'll see that am I sharing this with you guys? Was I sharing it all along? I'm in September 2023. I just grabbed any old transit chart, right? So just ignore the fact that every planet's in the wrong place. This has been a long work day. I'm just giving you trigons. I think I was sharing all along, right? Not just talking at you. Yes, I was. So this just is a September 23 chart. It makes me laugh. But we're talking trigons, right? Trigons of identity and stuff like that. So there's trigons of relationships. That's kind of funny. So August, we can see that, Aquarius gets this energy of 1, 5. Yeah. Okay. So we're moving into, third house. Then it's your significant marriage and relationship house. Ignore Venus. I guess I should put this into our approximate time zone of at least the next year, right? 2024. And anyway, so we're going to say there's something going on here. That August 19th, major changes of direction in a fiery initiative way in significant love relationships like marriage, business partnerships, or the way one reaches one's audience, clients, and significant others. At 19 degrees of Leo, it impacts sun, moon, and rising Aquarians within 3 degrees of either side. With my Aquarius ascendant at 18, it will impact me, but it can be because it's all this fire energy, like, a more committed level to a relationship. It could be marriage content. It could be many things. Then we move into December the 6th, or legal contracts. Excellent for legal contracts are on August 19th, right? But not like on the retrograde, but generating something intense there. And then on December the 6th, 14 Sag, so Sagittarius energy impacting anyone in sun, moon, and rising 14 degrees of Aquarius. This is about great gains from your career. This is about your influence over large groups of people. This is about the way you meet your dreams and wishes and fairy godfather and ask for things to happen. This is going to activate your ability to reach many people in some way. December 6th next year is that Cazimi. It's so funny, guys, that I had it the way I had it. And let's move into the next trigon, which we're going to do all the water trigons. Don't forget, it doesn't matter what year I'm in. I'm just showing you the angles of the chart. Don't worry about the planets. Oh, I'm going by years. Now I'm all the way to 2000. Guys, you have to know I'm on a production schedule that is insane. And this is what happens. Okay. And we're moving out of the air trigons into the water, but we're going to start, of course, I want to show you the visuals. It's really about the visuals of Cancer and I probably passed Cancer twice, right? There, Cancer, sun, moon, and rising sign. So the trigon, or the triplicity that's being activated in fire for you, are the Artha houses of career, purpose, money, and wealth. So this energy is houses 2, 4, 6, and 10. It's how you make your money. It's how you go to work. It's how you show up in your career and purpose and your visible reputation. This is the energy that's happening for you. I think Gary calls it the Trikon of mastery. And this is a part of your chart that you have where you can see that starting with the April 12th Cazimi at 12 degrees, especially influencing Cancer, Sun, Moon, and Rising near 12 degrees, that this is going to make some changes, significant and powerful, that can last for 7 years, obviously, in your career space and reputation space. Then on August the 19th at 26 Leo, changes in your earning structure, the way you make money, the way you receive the stuff you need in order to succeed financially from your career. And then on December 6th, 14 Sag, changes in the part of the sky from Sagittarius in your part of your real estate. I call it the real estate of your sky. It's the work routines, the health routines, the job, the boss, the employer-employee relationships. And so it can also be pets and tenancies as well. But because this trigon is being flared up, it's really work and resources and money. That's a big deal for you in 2024. Look back to see how it changed in 2017. My Cancer rising sister was preparing to retire from her nursing job, and that was a shift. It was underway during the last 2017-18 kind of fire signs in the sky, fire in the sky, Mercury Cazimis. Scorpio, Sun, Moon, and Scorpio, Sun, Moon, and rising sign, the trigon of money, resources, and career. Things are up for big change. Haven't seen it since 2017. Hopefully everyone caught that in the beginning. And this energy is about your money as well as your livelihood and your reputation. And on the April 12th at 12 degrees, Aries, you reset something to do with your work, your debt, maybe rental situations, pets, etc. 6th house matters, including the habits and routines of your work, but it could be beginning moving you towards a new livelihood or job in April. And then on August the 19th at 26 degrees of Leo at the top of your sky, particularly if your Sun, Moon, and Rising Scorpio is 3 degrees on either side of 26 degrees of Scorpio, major career shifts are going on, changes in your reputation, changes in your job, changes in your career path, changes in the way you show up in the visible world. It doesn't always have to be career. You know, when people get divorced, married, or widowed, or things like that, that's just status and reputation. So some reputational shifts are happening. Go back to 2017. How was that a year of change of reputational status and shifts in your life? And it's a house of weddings. And some of you may now be recognized as getting married or are married or something like that. And then on December the 6th, or divorced, on December the 6th at 14 degrees of Sagittarius, that is going to be changes in your earnings, paycheck, revenue, changes in your diet style, second house, changes in your face, getting a facial rejuvenation or new teeth veneers. Those are shifts that this energy is bringing into your life. Again, in your second house of earnings, voice, vocation, face, and diet style, food style. And so look to that December 6th for that last iteration of this triad of fire. And lastly, you Pisces, Sun, Moon, and Rising. This triad in the money earning story starts with the earnings. In this April 12th, there's a turning point change, shift, and revision about the kinds of resources and monies you bring into your life through your direct actions to create resources for yourself. Maybe can change your diet style as well. And then, or anything to do with your face. And then on August the 19th, at 26 degrees of Leo, there is this change that's going on in the part of the sky that's your job, work, pet, tenancy, rental stories. And there are changes there, maybe even debts and elimination thereof, or changes in your debt circumstances if you owe money or have borrowed money. And then on December 6th at 14 Sag, it's way up in the top of the sky. Do you have a new career? Do you have a new reputation? Are you getting a new reputation because you're, single, now you're married, now you're divorced, whatever. Big changes in how the world sees you. Now go back to 2017 into 18 and see how those played out in terms of money, career, work, energies. Always compare notes. Always remember, like when I say December 6, 14 Sag, maybe some of you Pisces closer to the 14 degree of Pisces, Sun, Moon, and Rising will feel it more strongly. Now, that is it. This is my appendage to the Gary Cayton content. This is going to be a recording way back in December 15th. My Patreon community gets all of this ahead of time. Hopefully you're enjoying it in the first week of January when I'm rolling out 7 days of content with guest astrologers or guest numerologists or guest people. Anyway, have a wonderful 2024, because that's when you're watching this on YouTube. Please like and subscribe. Look into my description box for everything I have to offer. And thank you for being a part of my world on YouTube.